Morning, everyone. I was really busy last night. I had a meeting and I didn't get to watching the ejection from caucus until this morning. And when I watched it, it's striking to me. And so I thought Jody Wilson-Raybould was going for a coup. And when Ms. Philpott also left cabinet, I thought, yeah, okay, we're definitely seeing the makings of two factions of liberals, and people are going to line up one side or the other. And then not a lot happened except for testimony, etc. And not that it shifted gears, but it seemed like Jody Wilson-Raybould was really trying to get Justin Trudeau to see his failure, see where he's wrong in this. But she let him make the mistake, right? She let him say nothing is wrong. And then she said, yeah, there's things wrong. He said her continued presence in caucus or cabinet, as she was the Veterans Affairs Minister after being shuffled out of being Attorney General, her continued presence in cabinet speaks for itself, and then she promptly left. So it's interesting. Same with Wernick. She had him on the phone, and he incriminated himself. She couldn't make him do that, but she was put in a position to allow him to do that. Walk through the door. The door's open. Here you go. Are you going to again break the law with me? Yep. Here you go. And the same with Trudeau. Each misstep, he gets thumped right after. So I'm waiting for the thump. I'm waiting for the hit back from Miss Wilson-Raybould or Miss Philpott or whatever's happening. And who knows? I don't know what their end game is. I really don't. It could be anything. If you were to ask me last week, if you were to look at my videos last week, I thought it was a coup attempt. At this point, I don't know what it is. I don't know. But it's interesting to watch, and I think I've said before, we're about halfway through this scandal, and Miss Wilson-Raybould has consistently been letting Trudeau make a mistake and then giving him a thump. And so we're waiting for the thump. So here's some memes because they're funny. Thank you for your donation, Miss Wilson-Raybould and Dr. Philpott. Here's the actual announcement. We're going to look at a couple of important parts. The first 6 minutes is really the most important part. I'm going to cut it up a little bit. He says at the beginning, we're going to watch the announcement that they're no longer part of the Liberal cabinet, and he kind of lays out the reason why. He explains it like 3 or 4 different times, and then at the end of the video, he goes into his campaign speech. I'm going to stop it halfway through to dispute a couple of things he said, because he says they've made every effort to address Miss Wilson-Raybould's and Miss Dr. Philpott's concerns. So I'm going to refute that claim at about 6 minutes and 10 seconds. But first, we're going to let Trudeau speak. I know. I dislike his potato face too.
I'm here to announce that Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott are no longer members of the caucus.
Are no longer members of the Liberal caucus. The trust that previously existed between these two individuals and our team has been broken. Whether it's taping conversations without consent or repeatedly expressing a lack of confidence in our government and in me personally as leader, it's become clear that Ms. Wilson-Raybould and Dr. Philpott can no longer remain part of our Liberal team.
So there's the initial salvo, right? Here's why, and then he's going to get into it more. Hold on, I'm going to cue up the next clip. Okay, here's Trudeau explaining doing things differently. At 3 minutes, he guffaws almost. It's weird. So pay attention to that. I'm going to cut it off shortly after that. And his version of events, this is nothing but spin. Like this speech, nothing but spin. Okay, here we go.
I'd like to explain why I've made this decision and speak to the important work ahead of us. This has been a difficult few weeks for our government and for our Liberal team. On the issue surrounding SNC-Lavalin, we've seen allegations made and different versions of events detailed. Amid the confusing and the competing narratives, Canadians, rightly, have had questions. And we've wrestled with those questions too, because they touch on things like the role of government in protecting jobs and the integrity of our democratic institutions. We made a commitment to Canadians in 2015 to do things differently, to bring together a diverse group of people and to demonstrate that public service, that commitment to community, that a desire to work hard to build a better future can be done differently than it used to be done. And we've done that. We have approached politics differently. We have approached team building differently. And in learning to do new things and doing them differently, we encounter difficult moments. Because doing new...
Right, sure, whatever. But so weird, right? Oh, we tried so hard for team building. You know, by leaking all sorts of stories in the press and not honestly dealing with the concerns of the Attorney General and other cabinet ministers or caucus members who left over this scandal. Wild. Like, who's prepping him? Okay, hold on. I'm going to get the next clip queued up. Okay, same speech. Here's another, that's why I did this. That's why I took this action. That's why. And then I'm going to talk about when did we address their concerns at all. I don't think anybody's addressed their concerns, actually, Mr. Trudeau. But we'll get to that in about 15, 20 seconds.
That's why I made the difficult decision to remove Ms. Wilson-Raybould and Dr. Philpott from the Liberal caucus. We've taken every effort to address their concerns. But ultimately, if they can't honestly say that they have confidence in this team, despite weeks of testimony, face-to-face conversations, and phone calls with myself and other members of caucus, then they cannot be part of this team.
Remember all those phone calls, Jody, when we were telling you you should definitely give a DPA and there's definitely going to be consequences? The Prime Minister was in a mood, said Mr. Wernick, right? You know, he's going to get this done. There's going to be a collision, right? There's consequences, Jody. All those conversations. If you don't believe us, well, how can you be part of caucus? Right? And where exactly were any of these concerns? I'm just going to lay out what happened. Bill C-74 had a criminal code change. Bill C-74 is a budget bill, but it had a criminal code change pushed through with no debate on the House floor and no input from the Justice Committee, save one testimony to the budget committee who was crafting the bill, the budget. And during that testimony, people within the committee said, this isn't appropriate. This should be debated on the House floor. We shouldn't be doing changes to the criminal code through this budget bill. Okay. Once the DPA was in place from Bill C-74, from the budget bill, then the public prosecutor was able to access that DPA and give it to SNC, thereby letting them skate and not have to go to criminal trial and letting them continue to bid on federal contracts if they wanted to, right? So SNC was supposed to get a DPA, but Ms. Roussel, I think that's how you say her name, and I'm sorry if that's not, said, no, we're not giving you a DPA, and notified SNC on September 4th, 2018. Once she notified SNC, a whole bunch of conversations happened between the PMO, the Prime Minister's office, the Privy Council, Jody Wilson-Raybould, Mr. Morneau and Jody Wilson-Raybould, all sorts of people who are in Trudeau's inner circle, and Jody Wilson-Raybould, and Ms. Prince, Jody Wilson-Raybould's chief of staff, Mr. Toe, I believe, Mr. Morneau's chief of staff. No, that's not it. Mr. Chin is Morneau's chief of staff. So Mr. Chin had spoken with Ms. Prince, chief of staff to chief of staff. They were all hands on deck putting pressure. This has not been addressed in the slightest. Where was that addressed? Okay, once the DPA was denied and the pressure put on, and I'm going to show you here a couple of things. Here's Kathleen Roussel. This is the Kathleen Roussel, the fearless lawyer who didn't back down on SNC-Lavalin. This was posted March 20th, 2019. I just want to, I'm not making stuff up here. In the case of SNC-Lavalin, Ms. Roussel made the decision not to grant the company a deferred prosecution agreement. DPA former Attorney General and Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould said she faced pressure from the Prime Minister's office and other government officials to intervene in the matter. In an email exchange with the Globe and Mail, Ms. Roussel would not comment on any matters involving SNC-Lavalin because the criminal proceeding against the company are currently before the courts. But those who know Ms. Roussel say that Ms. Wilson-Raybould would have understood the top prosecutor considered the SNC-Lavalin criminal prosecution with great care. Right, so, and here's the Bill C-74. It's going to take a second. Here it is. So Bill C-74, it received royal assent in the middle of summer 2018, okay? And here's the factors to not consider. Despite paragraph 2I, if the organization is alleged to have committed an offense under section 3 or 4 of the Corruption of Foreign Public Officials Act, the prosecution prosecutor must not consider the national economic interest, that's jobs, the potential effect on relations with a state other than Canada, or the identity of the organization or individual involved. This has been cited multiple times by people smarter than me as the reason SNC was not eligible for the deferred prosecution agreement, which is highlighted here. And if you want to see all of the criminal offenses that big businesses can pay their way out of, just head on down to Schedule 6, okay? It's bribery of officers, fraud on the government, municipal corruption, selling or purchasing office. It's a whole litany of things. Man, I wish I had a company so that I could just go and break the law and pay my way out of it, right? Doesn't that make sense? Just becomes a part of doing business. And Justin Trudeau is saying that we have addressed those concerns. And if you can't play ball, Miss Wilson-Raybould, if you can't play ball with us, you got to get out of cabinet. Thanks for the donations, right? Get out. Because we've worked really hard in the Liberal caucus to make things better, guys. We sure have. Hold on a second. I'll cue up the next clip. Actually, I won't cue up the next clip. I was still in the middle of things. So after all of that, Jody Wilson-Raybould refused to intervene with the public prosecutor. Then they had all sorts of pressure meetings. Then in January, they shuffled her out of cabinet, presumably without Michael Warnick telling Justin Trudeau what happened on that phone call. Sure, nobody believes that. And silenced her after that point. And who knows what happened. And in addition to silencing her, they started whisper campaigns in the press, started maligning her name and saying she was hard to work with and that a person sat in prison for 20 years because she wasn't doing the job. She testified in the Justice Committee, and all sorts of people said, we need to hear more. And then she gave documents and text messages and emails and that backed up what she said, that proved what she said, that proved she wasn't lying. And now the Liberals are saying that's beyond the pale. You cannot record somebody without their knowledge. That's it. You're out of caucus. Ha! What a sham. What a sham. Do they think this is going to go away? Okay, now I'm going to go cue up the next clip. Okay, we're just going to listen from here till he says it's unconscionable that Jody Wilson-Raybould recorded this. And this is the biggest distraction in the world. Don't look at all the stuff that I did that was illegal. Pay attention to the stuff that you did that wasn't illegal, but I'm saying it's unconscionable. Here it is.
If a politician secretly records a conversation with anyone, it's wrong. When that politician is a cabinet minister secretly recording a public servant, it's wrong. And when that cabinet minister is the Attorney General of Canada secretly recording the clerk of the Privy Council, it's unconscionable.
So there you go. That's why they're going to discharge him. Discharge both Philpott and Jody Wilson-Raybould. Two things. When he was saying that it's wrong thing, did anybody else watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer when Faith went into Buffy and she was saying, it's wrong in the mirror? That just made me think of that. And, well, I can't remember the other thing at this point in time. Hold on. I'm going to cue up the next clip. So I just want to show you, he starts his, this is a campaign event for him, right? And it doesn't matter that these are Liberals in this room. This is a campaign event. So he starts his climate change speech here. Here we go. And I'm pointing out, this is the end of his speech saying, we've gotten rid of that Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott. Yeah, yay, everybody's standing ovation, Mr. Trudeau. Yeah, great leadership. Canola? You want to work on China yet? No?
The next election is around the corner and the stakes are high. This fall, Canadians are facing a clear choice. Our opponents want to take us backwards. For proof, look no further than their lack of a climate change plan. It's been 330.
And this is what Liberals want to turn the page to. Remember 3 weeks ago when they said, now we're done talking about this, we've got all the information we need, and we're going to talk about climate change. And everybody said, I don't think so. SNC is a big deal. And what's happening with this and what's happening with this and what's happening with this. And they're trying to turn the page. Don't let them. I'm not letting them. So here's Ms. Wilson-Raybould, quote on Twitter, I have just been informed by the Prime Minister of Canada that I'm removed from the Liberal caucus and as the confirmed Vancouver Granville candidate for the Liberal Party of Canada in the 2019 federal election. More to come. Here's more. Reflecting on what PM has done, my thoughts are with my constituents in Van Gran, my dedicated staff and volunteers, my family and friends, and all Canadians who believe in a new way of doing politics. I will take the time to reflect and talk to my supporters about what happens next. What I can say is that I hold my head high and that I can look myself in the mirror knowing I did what I was required to do and what needed to be done based on principles and values that must always transcend party. I have no regrets. I spoke the truth, and as I will continue to do. And here is another one. Oh, no. Sorry, sometimes tabs sneak in there. Here is Miss Dr. Philpott. Quote, I ran to be a member of Parliament for the purpose of improving people's lives. Nothing will stop me from continuing in that pursuit. More details here. And here's the Facebook post. And she says, French translation pending. Tonight, I was expelled from the caucus of the Liberal Party of Canada. Sadly, the decision was made without me being provided any opportunity to speak to National Caucus. This is profoundly disheartening for me, my staff, and my family, and I know people in Markham-Stouffville who will also be disappointed. I was accused publicly by people in caucus of not being loyal, of trying to bring down the Prime Minister, of being politically motivated, and of being motivated by my friendship with Jody Wilson-Raybould. These accusations were coupled with public suggestions that I should be forced out of caucus. These attacks were based on inaccuracies and falsehoods. I did not initiate the crisis now facing the party or the Prime Minister, nor did Jody Wilson-Raybould. Rather than acknowledge the obvious, that a range of individuals had inappropriately attempted to pressure the former Attorney General in relation to a prosecutorial decision and apologized for what occurred, a decision was made to deny the obvious, to attack Jody Wilson-Raybould's credibility and attempt to blame her. That approach now appears to be focused on whether Jody Wilson-Raybould should have audio taped the clerk instead of the circumstances that prompted Jody Wilson-Raybould to feel compelled to do so. I was not able to support the recommended response to deny these allegations. My constitutional obligations, including cabinet solidarity and collective responsibility, compelled me to resign as a cabinet minister under these circumstances. This isn't about a lack of loyalty. On the contrary, I recommended that the government acknowledge what happened in order to move forward. This was an expression of loyalty, not disloyalty, in the same way that Jody Wilson-Raybould attempted to protect the Prime Minister from the obvious short-term and long-term consequences of attempts to interfere with prosecutorial independence, but to no avail. This also isn't about political advantage or strategy. It is frankly absurd to suggest that I would leave one of the most senior portfolios in government for personal advancement or merely out of friendship with Jody Wilson-Raybould. I have also been criticized for not telling my complete story in Parliament because I would have been shielded by parliamentary immunity. Much of the story has now been told by Jody Wilson-Raybould as a result of the additional information she provided to the Justice Committee. Anything else is covered by cabinet privilege that has not been waived. It would be irresponsible for me to breach cabinet privilege simply because I could do so without being prosecuted for the breach. Parliamentary privilege is not designed as a license for breaching your constitutional and ethical... Sorry, everyone, that just kept jumping up, so I changed here. I'll start again. Parliamentary privilege is not designed as a license for breaching your constitutional and ethical obligations. Throughout these events, I've continued to support Liberal policies, and the commitment was made as a member of Cabinet. I would have been compelled to support, in question period and in the media, the government's response to the SNC-Lavalin case, and speak in support of that response. I could not do this, and as a result, I was compelled to resign. I thought there should be scope within the caucus and the party for a range of views on the SNC-Lavalin case, including the views I expressed directly to the Prime Minister. Indeed, the need has never been greater for a measured reevaluation of how the government should respond to this issue. What I have learned from Canadians is that they want to know the truth. That being said, it appears that the caucus is intent on staying the current course, regardless of its short-term and long-term consequences to the party and to the country, and it has been decided that there is no place for me in the caucus. I regret that relationships have been so fractured. I have nothing but good wishes for my former Liberal colleagues and all those who commit themselves to public service. I ran to be a member of Parliament for the purpose of improving people's lives. Nothing will stop me from continuing in that pursuit. I will continue to proudly represent the people of Markham-Stouffville for the remainder of this term. So, sorry I had to jump out there with the Facebook stuff that was just hopping up, but these are intelligent people who, again, thinking of what Ms. Philpott just said, who occupied very senior posts in the government. Jody Wilson-Raybould was the Attorney General and legalized marijuana. Dr. Philpott, President of the Treasury Board. These are not insignificant positions. These are certainly powerful positions. the idea that they would leave for personal gain and not because something untoward was happening is at this point laughable. There's a lot of evidence to support the things that these women are saying, and not a lot of evidence to support that Justin Trudeau sufficiently addressed anybody's concerns at all. At all. I wouldn't trust him to water my houseplants. Well, here's the Global News reporting, and this is the last story for this morning. He's toast. BC Indigenous leader slams Trudeau for booting Wilson-Raybould from caucus. Yeah. And not just because he booted her from caucus, but not just for that action. But I think, one, it looks bad. And two, I don't think booting her from caucus will tick the next box. I think the next thing that happens is if Lametti tries to give a DPA, I think that's go time. Because I think Miss Wilson-Raybould will sit back and not do anything if the law is not broken. But if the law is broken, and in her view, then she, I think, will respond. And I do believe she is armed. So, interesting times in Canadian politics. I wonder if I'll get through lunch before the other shoe drops. For today. I'm excited because I'm sure there's something else happening. And it's interesting to watch. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry it took me so long. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca.